Earth was a peaceful place. That is until Raditz shows up! Hey folks, MasakoX here. Now this one has been a very much requested title in many of our What If Roundtable live streams. In these, mostly, weekly live streams, we often get suggestions from you about the brother of Goku joining the main character of Dragon Ball on his adventures across the planet. And this idea has been covered by many other people in the What If universe here on YouTube, to which I recommend that you give them a look when you're done here, because they're actually pretty good. However, I didn't want just to make another one of those. I wanted to put my own spin on these things. Change the dynamic of Dragon Ball forever, making Raditz the main character. What if he went to Earth instead of Goku? And no, I'm not talking about Goku or Kakarot as he would most likely be known going with him. Not a double act here. I am talking about the elder brother going there to Earth on his own. No Goku at all. Or at least, of course, not until much later should the power of destiny compel something like that to occur, and he got lucky. No, Raditz is flying solo. And naturally, the attention around Raditz has been enhanced over the last few years, strangely. Yep, can't figure out why that might be. And therefore, a lot more questions have arisen as to how much of an impact he might have had on the Dragon Ball story, should he have played a bigger role in it. Well, here, today, he can pretty much rule the roost without that pesky little Goku getting in the way. But I'm sure that you will all have many questions as to how this could come about. And I think I can make this work within the laws of Dragon Ball, especially if I go by the Dragon Ball Super Broly / Dragon Ball Minus route. So let's set the scene for you. A few days before the events of Minus occur, we are set on planet Vegeta, obviously, and there are some very minor rumblings going on about some kind of order being handed down by the likes of Freeza. Nobody knows who started these rumours exactly, but they were gaining momentum by the hour, as some of the more locally based Saiyans on other worlds were returning from their missions and not being sent out again, doing nothing. Gine had noticed a huge uptake of people demanding food on the planet, and all of this made her feel a little bit suspicious. But the demand was there, and therefore more hands on deck to prepare food for these hungry warriors. And unfortunately, this had a side effect which would change certain events. Raditz, instead of going off to assist with Prince Vegeta in Naparov World like he did in the Broly movie and Minus, came down with a stomach bug, and thusly his secondment with the prince was lost. He remained on the planet, in bed, feeling utterly ashamed with himself. His chance to work alongside the prince, gone. There'd be no way for him to get that plum again, especially after losing in such a pathetic and ordinary way. Oh no, my tummy hurts! Oh God, he'd never live it down. He would often look at the nursing capsule that contained his brother, feeling jealousy at the floating infant.
Look at you there, Kakarot. You don't have to worry about embarrassing people. You just float there, without a care in the world. Lucky stiff.
This would get him down immensely. The only thing that piqued his spirit was when his father Bardock came back a few days later, when he got his orders to get home and he had arrived. He felt uneasy with this order thanks to his now gut feeling instead of his future telling ability as per the original special from the early 90s. So, we then get the part where he relays his feelings to his partner, Gine, and now in the presence of his eldest son Raditz. I don't feel good about this at all. It's important we get you and Kakarot off world until things cool off.
But father, I can fight alongside you! Honest! I'm ready!
Bardock looked unconvinced, however, having heard why he was still here. If I remember correctly, you were supposed to be alongside the boy Prince, and yet a bug got the better of you. Raditz shifted awkwardly. That kind of stung. I'm gonna go and steal 2 pods to send you and Kakarot away. That way you can stay out of this until it's safe to return. Raditz was shocked. It felt awful. He was being cast out for being too weak. That had to be it.
I'm sorry, father, for not being good enough.
Bardock's expression softened a bit. It's not that, kid. You just need to hang in there more.
Hang in there?
Yeah. Not be beaten down by every little thing. Next time a bug hits you, do your best to walk it off. Now, this isn't exactly the best parenting advice for a human, but to a Saiyan, it's pretty good. Fight through it, and what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And of course, as we know, Raditz could do with being stronger. Raditz backs down, but only on the proviso that he goes help his father get the pods. He is much weaker than the average Saiyan because he's only an infant, and so the scouters wouldn't be sensitive enough to detect him, even at far enough range. Plus, he's also dinky. Bardock does like this idea, and when he and his son return, they were able to score 2 pods instead of just the 1 from the original story. Raditz has come to terms with the plan, and right now, he's thinking that, oh, this is only going to be temporary. Yeah, in a few days, he'll be back home with everyone, all of this having blown over, and him not having to go to this weird ER that had been programmed in by his father to the pod's navigation computer. As for Kakarot, he had no idea what was going on, because he couldn't speak his feelings since he hadn't yet learned how to talk, having only just come out of the nursing capsule a few hours ago.
It'll be all right, bro. Get inside the pod, and we'll see each other in a few days. All well. Just follow me.
This calmed down Kakarot a little bit, and this also helped Guinea and Bardock with their goodbyes. They felt a little bit more confident that they would see their boys again, and if not, Raditz would be able to protect the little one. But that was the last time they would see them. And later, as you know, they wouldn't really see much else. As the pods rose into the sky, Raditz caught the sight of his parents shrinking into the obscurity of the nighttime desert below. He then turned to see his brother in the capsule adjacent to him.
Kakarot, it'll be all right. I've got your back.
He then turned to the controls in the pod and tried to recall the basic stuff his dad had told him as they were walking back with the pods from having stolen them. The acquisition being surprisingly easy, since the Freeza Force apparently had given the engineering crew the night off. For some bizarre reason, he felt that he could pilot them well enough to get he and his brother far enough from the planet and then activate the cryo functions to then put them into suspended animation and wait until they got to the planet, until they returned a few days later. After all, being in a small pod with nothing to do would be really boring. Well, about that. This wasn't a time to be bored. One of the misgivings that Bardock had with Raditz going was that his power was about maybe, 100, 150 or so, and with the bigger and more advanced scouter tech from the Freeza ships that patrolled the planet and the outer orbit, they might be able to track him. And they did. Raditz was too confident in controlling the pod himself that he should have probably been paying attention, or better yet done the cryo thing sooner. A Freeza ship detected 1 and also 2 pods escaping the planet, and when Raditz spotted this was very weird, why they were patrolling them.
Why would they come after us?
The speaker crackled into life.
Halt! You're in violation of the Royal Edict to stay on planet Vegeta. Return to ground level at once, or else we will arrest you.
Raditz was scared. Arrested? No, that can't happen. If he were to be detained for breaching the rules like this, then any chance of him going up the ranks and maybe becoming a mid-class warrior like his dad might evaporate before his very eyes, before it even began. He'd be a loser for all of his life. And this is when his natural instincts of survival kicked in. Now you see, what makes Raditz different from other Saiyans is that he is very selfish and very willing to protect his own hide by any means necessary at the expense of others. In that regard, he is very un-Saiyan-like, despite his many speeches about Saiyan pride and the Saiyan way. In a crisis, he would turn literal tail and run, keeping himself alive. And this is where he does so, abandoning his brother. He couldn't face the shame of being outcast from the Saiyan ranks. This outranked brotherly love. So if he was going to stand any chance of doing well in life, he had to escape capture now.
Kakarot, I hope you can keep up.
Ah, Raditz, he was a babe who couldn't talk. Do you really think he'd be able to outwit a Freeza police vehicle? Well, I mean, not really. Raditz only spoke this out loud to ease his guilt. If Kakarot somehow got out of this, then hey, no harm done, they got lucky. With that, Raditz activated the manual controls and began to steer his way out of the trajectory of the police craft. He could hear the officers' protestations throughout, but he didn't really process the words, they were just white noise to him. He didn't look back. He powered forward and couldn't see Kakarot's pod being apprehended by the chasing craft. It was only a few minutes later that he would turn around, when he had sensed that he'd gotten loose and out of harm's way, that he spotted that he was alone. Oh dear. He had left his brother to the mercy of the Freeza Force. He felt terrible, but he didn't have time for that. What made it worse was that not long after that, he saw his vision being eclipsed with a brilliant white light. What once was his homeworld vanished in a brilliant explosion. Not only had he left his brother behind, he might have even doomed him to death before his life even began. And his parents, well, they were gone. How? How could Planet Vegeta just disappear like this? Raditz was left shocked and emotionally drained for hours. The only thing that caused him to tire out was his lack of food and sleep. To ease the pain, he requested for the cryonics on board to turn on so that he may no longer think. When he got to Earth or whatever, he'd deal with it then. His eyes grew heavy, and he finally slept as the interior temperature dropped to stasis level. However, Kakarot didn't die. As Raditz's pod had escaped the reach of the police craft, the officer settled with just the one. He brought the pod on board and spotted a child Saiyan occupying the seat. Huh? What's a kid doing here? There were no exploratory missions scheduled for today. He contacted Zarbon to relay a message to Lord Freeza about this weird anomaly. General Zarbon, there's a small infant Saiyan attempting to leave the planet. He cannot speak and seems to be rather fresh out of his nursing capsule. What do we do with him now that the planet is, you know? Zarbon replied with a cool tone. Oh, have him delivered to Lord Freeza. The idea of a pet monkey baby might appeal to him. It might also give the prince something to play with. So, his destiny, Kakarot's, is very much not over. But for the sake of this what if, we must focus on Raditz here. Now free from the clutches of the Freezer Force, Raditz's pod crossed the stars at a fantastic speed. All the while, its occupant was fast asleep, completely devoid of care and worry. For now, at least. When the pod started to thaw, it was to report that Raditz was about to arrive on the planet Earth, and that he should prepare for landing. It was going to be a bit bumpy. The temperature outside rose dramatically, and Raditz could feel the buffeting forces rock him about in his seat. And then, the impact. It was pretty fierce, but luckily, the pod was able to cushion it for him, and he only just felt a big thud, and then nothing. When he plucked up the courage, he then activated the pod door, and cool air rushed inside. The first breath of fresh air he had in weeks. It felt pretty good, actually, given the things he had been through. Stasis had given him dreamless rest, but now he was on his own. He walked out of his pod and looked at the surroundings. It was a very dense forest, much unlike his homeworld. He had landed in the forests of Mount Palzu, but there was something more pressing at hand. He couldn't take in the view enough. Saiyan, come out with your hands up, said a shrill and uptight being from the distance. Raditz rushed away from his ship as quick as his legs could carry him into the undergrowth. He hid very quickly after that and observed the being skulking around his pod, trying to get any clues. It was a very small alien-like thing with blue skin, yellow eyes, and a sort of white-purple suit with a very familiar logo on his back.
That's the Galactic Patrol. Dad told me about them. Well, that was too close.
Raditz was very lucky, and his quick thinking and survival instincts once again got him out of another predicament. If the Freezer Force hadn't gotten him, the patrol would have done. And then he might have been imprisoned, doing nothing with his life. Jarko looked up and groaned.
Oh, I really cannot be chasing a single Saiyan like this. From what I can gather, it's not a particularly strong one either. What to do?
Jarko patted his feet for a while and then shrugged.
Oh well, I'll call this in as having been a lost sight. I'll try again later.
Thanks to the Super Elite's laziness, Raditz had been able to get out of there scot-free. Once the annoying alien had left, Raditz decided to venture deeper into the forest in search for food. Luckily, this world seemed to be, despite primitive in nature, quite bountiful. There was running water quite freely and abundantly there, plenty of wild animals, and he was able to survive. But it wasn't exactly the best existence for him. In the end, he too felt like just another beast here, existing. This was not how a Saiyan should live. His mind kept drifting towards Kakarot, his parents. They were gone, so it would seem. He should have stayed there with his father and mother. That way, he wouldn't have to live with the remorse of having left his brother to save his own hide. One day, though, after having bagged another wild animal, he had had enough. He was sick of living here just like this, just waiting to die or be captured by that patrol lagoon. He'd only seen him twice, and those times were easy for him to evade capture. It wasn't even sport anymore. It was dull. This imbecile was just really, really bad at his job. The intrigue of this cat and mouse game had worn off, and Raditz had just, found it pathetic. But then, he bumped into an old man wandering about the forest. A gentleman who didn't want to capture him. In fact, he showed concern for Raditz. How strange. This had been the first time that someone other than his mother had shown him any signs of empathy or compassion. Not even his father Bardock did. "Are you all right, young one?" Raditz then tried to show more confidence than he had on his person.
I'm fine, old man. You needn't worry about me.
Grandpa Gohan didn't look convinced. "Are you sure? You look very tired and in need of a good meal." Raditz's ears, though, perked up when he heard the word meal. Home cooking? Hot food? Something that wasn't raw? Oh, his survival instincts rose to the fore again.
"Meal, you say?"
"Yes, my child. You act like you've never had one in your life. Say, where are your parents in all this? Are you lost?" Raditz looked awkwardly at the old man.
"They're long gone. It was my fault that they're gone."
"I see. Do you have anyone else to look after you?"
"Can I have that meal, please? I want the meal."
Gohan sighed and guided Raditz in the direction of his house. As they walked, Gohan asked Raditz a question aside from his name. "Raditz, my boy, those clothes you're wearing, where do they come from? I can honestly say I don't recognize them."
"Oh, these? Standard issue Saiyan armor. Stretchy, too."
"Saiyan? What's a Saiyan?" Raditz then was reminded about how backwards this planet was. Didn't even know about Saiyans. These moronic and weak creatures. But food was sounding nice right about now, so the conversation stopped there and then, and only picked up again at the sight of a pot bubbling away with ingredients inside. "I hope you don't mind an underseasoned broth, little one. I was on my way to find some herbs when I found you, so I naturally got distracted." Raditz waved it aside and sniffed the contents, to which they were very alluring. When he actually tried some later, he fell in love. This food was amazing. This was the best food he'd ever tasted in his life, and his mother Gine was a dab hand at cooking. The ingredients, though, on this world, well, they couldn't compare.
"This is delicious!"
"Oh, this? This is quite ordinary for me. You wait until I can find me some dinosaur meat or some juicy fish. Then you'll be impressed." Raditz then thought for a second.
"Oh, I can do that. I'm strong enough to fight off some pesky dinosaur thing, whatever that is."
Gohan was surprised at this kid's bravado and laughed. "I would like to see you try." And the next day, he saw just that. Raditz had used his guile and cunning, as well as his tail, to capture a giant fish inside a rock pool. It was huge, 10 feet long, must have weighed 300 pounds. The biggest Gohan had seen in months, in fact, and he was very impressed. And Raditz felt pretty good. The best and most accomplished since he got here. And this was when he realized something. He quite liked it here. This low-pressure environment away from the Freeza Force, where his meager power as a Saiyan would be seen as actually pretty remarkable, clearly. He found an old man that also valued his skills. And he'd also found a very reliable source of food that not only filled him up enough, but also kept him healthy, and he actually loved the taste. He felt great. If only Kakarot were here, though, to join in with these good times. But then Jarko found him.
"Aha! Found you, you pesky Saiyan!"
Raditz had been a little bit careless one day, and had been gallivanting outside his home only to draw the attention of Jarko. But before the patroller could actually arrest him and take him away, Gohan sensed Raditz's energy in turmoil and came outside to see what was going on. "What's with all the ruckus here, sir?"
"Are you the owner of this abode, human?"
Why, yes, I am. This here is Raditz. He also lives here with me. Quite a strong lad, if you ask me."
"Well, this Raditz here is a Saiyan, a part of the villainous and dangerous race whose sole purpose is to destroy. I am here to take him into custody. It's for the good of this world and yourself."
"I can assure you that he's no trouble at all." Jarko eyed this old man up.
"And you know this how?"
"I've looked after him for a couple of months now, and he hasn't been any problem. No world destroying here. A little bit afraid of the dark sometimes, but otherwise fine. Jocko weighed up the evidence. He really didn't want to be transporting a dangerous and rabid Saiyan with him in the back of his ship, without any containment fields. He instead chose to play the third way. Are you confident to be this thing's caretaker for the moment? Until I can get the right, paperwork in order? I suppose. Jocko paused dramatically for effect. Very well. You are to raise this Saiyan and keep him from doing anything bad. But one more thing. Piece of advice. Don't let him look at the moon here. For your own sake. And with that, Jocko ran off, and Raditz breathed a sigh of relief. Raditz? What did he mean by that? Are you really a threat to this world? Raditz looked very nervous, his survival instincts being tasked once more. And that's where we're going to be leaving things for right now. So what do you folks think? Will Raditz be rumbled now he's gotten cozy here? Can he find some way to convince the old man to keep him? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. And I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!